Hello, I am in downtown Manhattan, right near the Freedom Tower. It's absolutely amazingly beautiful here, and it's also really affluent. And when there's affluence, we talk about money. That's what we talk about on this channel. So today we are going to be talking specifically about why most people's investor pitches fail. Meaning, you have a company, you are seeking an investment, you come to an investor and you don't end up walking away with money. Why did you fail? There is a lot of reasons. The very core reasons start with, are you talking to the wrong investor? Let's say with that. All right, let's start with that. Now, if you have an investor who only invests in certain stages of business, growth stage, or sometimes seed stage, sometimes they only look for growth where it's millions of dollars. And you're a startup, you're a brand new startup, and you're at seed stage, they're not going to invest in you no matter how persuasive your argument is. It doesn't really matter what you're pitching, you're not going to succeed with that. You can ask for a referral, and if they give you one to someone who does invest in that, then that is a success, so that's good. However, you're not going to get any money out of that person. The other thing is that whoever invests in your business, whoever invests in your business, they are stuck with you until your exit. Meaning, till exit do us part. It's a marriage. No kidding. So if you have a personality mismatch between you and the person who you're going to try to get to invest, holy cow, the echo in here is crazy. I wasn't expecting that. So if you're trying to get an investor and you have a personality mismatch with that person, that's probably not a good start. You don't want to be stuck married to them for the length of your business. That means until exit strategy. We discussed exit strategy in some of my other videos. It's beyond the scope of this one. But essentially it means whatever reason you are exiting from your business. Sorry, that's water taxi. They have very loud horns apparently. Okay, so now let's say you have found that the investor does invest in your sector and they are not a personality mismatch with you, meaning the two of you like each other. What's the next possible reason? Did you look at their portfolio? See what other companies are in there? What if there's a conflict of interest? They've already invested in a company much like yours. Then they're not going to invest in yours. It's straight up simple. Now, in an ideal world, their portfolio would contain a company that's complementary to yours. So let's say you're producing orange juice and they already invested in a company that has orange fields and they have the oranges to supply. And now if they invest in you, they get two segments of that process of creating orange juice. Make the oranges and get the orange juice made, and that's really a win-win for them. So complementary companies within their portfolio is important, but not critical. But what is critical is that there's no conflict of interest, because then they're just not doing it. Someone in their portfolio has a company just like yours, you're going to be competing with them, they're not going to invest in you. Straight up. Okay, now, let's say you come to them with your team. What, you don't have a team? One person? Don't even bother trying to get investment. Ain't nobody gonna invest in you if you're a one-man show, one-woman show. It ain't happening. All right? You need to have at least two partners in order to get an investment. Nobody invests in one-partner businesses. Okay, two partners minimum. 3 partners is also totally okay. 4 and up is possible, but not ideal. Okay, it's frowned upon to have more than 4 business partners in a brand new startup. Mind you, a later stage is totally okay, but a brand new startup should not have 4 or more business partners unless there's a compelling reason to do that. Let's say you're medical tech business. You might now need one person with expertise in medicine, one person expertise in technology, and one person expertise in business management. And maybe a 4th person with legal experience because it's medicine and you have FDA and all that stuff. Okay? So then it's compelling. Then there's a good reason to have 4 or more partners in such a scenario. That's okay. But if you are trying to make the next social network and there's nothing unique about it, you shouldn't need more than 3 people if you're a brand new startup, unless you have a compelling reason. There's someone who has some skill who you want to bring on board. That's okay. By the way, if you look out into the distance there in this camera, I'll need to zoom in a little bit. That right there, it's a dot in the distance, but that is Lady Liberty. So for those of you not from New York, I guess that's more significant. I see her all the time, so it's a daily routine, but it's a beautiful daily routine. Okay, so now let's say you got that equation where you have the right quantity of partners. What if the investor speaks to one of your partners and they say, well, what did you contribute in the last 3 days? He says, no, I'm sorry, I was busy with my day job. All right, you have to have dedicated partners. If they feel that your team is not putting in a full-time effort in any way, they will not invest in you because they feel that's not going to be good on their investment. Meaning, like, would you really hire someone at the same salary if they're not going to put in a full-time effort? No, of course not. So that's kind of their thought. If they're going to give you this money, they expect a full-time commitment. If your team is not fully committed, then that's bad. If your team doesn't get along with each other and it somehow is exposed during the time that you're talking to this investor, that's like the gong going off, like on the Gong Show. Immediate fail. No one's going to invest in you if partners don't get along, obviously. Like right in front, meaning that it's obvious in front of them. Okay, so good dynamic between the partners is very important. Now, what if you got 3 guys and they all have technology backgrounds and no one really has a business background? That's probably not going to get you an investment either. That's called an unbalanced team. Very important you have a balanced team. All the skills needed are on that team, and if they're mission critical skills. And if they're not mission critical skills, then you have to know how to get them. So you can hire some people. You don't have to have them all as leadership or partners, or that's fine. But you need to have a balanced team to start. Or have in your plan a definition of how you're going to get that balanced team after you achieve investment. Meaning, you have identified Mr. So-and-so who has the XYZ skill, and he will balance out our team. We spoke with him, he entertained our offer to come on board with us, and we just need the financial backing to be able to bring him on board. That's an okay, satisfactory answer as well. Now, you do still need, well, I'm trying to see if I can walk up there without them yelling at me. You do still need to have a balanced team, and if you don't, that's a reason they won't invest in you. Now, what about the actual product itself? It has to be compelling. It's very important that you have a compelling product. That sounds almost obvious, but sometimes people don't know that which they do not know. They aren't aware of that which they have no idea what they're not aware of. Now that sounds like a riddle, but it's actually not. So the fact is, if you have something where you have a constant, common blind spot, something where you're not aware of that which you're not aware of, meaning you don't know the skills you don't have. You know that you can't speak certain languages, no human being speaks them all. You know that, but you don't know that you're missing certain skills that you can learn maybe in business school or something like that. There are things that people don't realize they don't know. That's one of the fun things. Okay, you have to realize there are always something you don't know that you don't know. Now, if those things are revealed during a business engagement with a potential investor, you better have contingency plans for how you're going to deal with them. Because as a business, there shouldn't be things that you don't know that you don't know. If there is, then your partner should fill in those gaps. Let's say you have no idea about business. You don't have a clue what you're supposed to do to form a company, but you do know tech really well, and you're trying to start a tech startup. As long as your partner has the business background, that's okay. Not a problem. However, if neither of you do, then there's things you don't know. Alright? So now, it's important that you don't have holes in your business model that get revealed during this investor meeting, because that's going to be just straight up bad. Now, if you get a hole, but you have a contingency plan, okay, meaning that you are right up, they say, oh, what happens if XYZ happens? You never thought of that before, but you have a good answer. Well, in that case, we're going to do ABC and hire so-and-so company. That's a contingency plan. That's totally okay. That's not going to give you a big problem getting your investment. Now, there's other reasons that you might lose your investment from your business model. What if the actual product itself has no market? Meaning, you might have the greatest thing in the world that's so much fun to use, but there's no one who's willing to pay you for it. or there's no users who really want to adopt it. And when I say no could mean, no users could mean 200,000 people. But that might not be enough of a profit model to sustain the business. Everything, that's a relative number. Other businesses, if you get 100 clients, that satisfies ample amount of profit. It really depends on your business model and what you're doing. So now, the other aspect is your market big enough to sustain what you're trying to do and sustain a business? If you're doing something so niche market that there's only 8 people in this world who really need your product, but they desperately need it, it might be a good product, it might be a good idea, but it may not be a good business, and it may not support a investment. And that's another main reason that people don't get investments. The market's not big enough. Market could be saturated. What if I was 1,000 people doing what you're doing? If you're trying to be the next Facebook, I guarantee you thousands of people are trying that. How are you differentiating yourself? You better be able to express that if you intend to actually get some financial backing from an investor. If you can't discuss competently why your product is so advantageous that all the thousands of other people doing exactly what you did in this saturated market are inferior to what you're doing, or miss the key that you have figured out, if you can't express that, you will not get an investor. It's also important to be humble enough to recognize the reality of the situation. Okay, you need to have financial projections in order to get any investment typically. Maybe not any, but most of the time they want financial projections. There's good ways to make financial projections, and there's amateur ways. The amateur way is, I'm gonna make 20% of the market use my product in 1 year. I'm gonna have 20% of the product of the market. There's 2 billion people, therefore I'm gonna have 20% of 2 billion using it, paying $10 a month, and we're gonna be the next $3 billion company by 2010. I mean, those are nonsense numbers, and anyone who's an experienced investor knows that stuff. You have to have concrete systems of coming up with those numbers. So let's say one of the numbers could be like how much income you're going to get if you achieve so and so number of customers. Well, how are you going to get those customers? So a bad way to say is, we are going to put up advertisements and hope that 3% convert into a client. That's a bad way, because that's not a fixed model. A good way is, we are going to purchase a list of existing clients for some similar product who have already purchased this product from our competitors, and we are going to pitch to them. And there are 100,000 people on this list we're purchasing, and we anticipate at least 5% to become our clients. That's much more concrete. Okay, the difference is targeting. Okay, one is targeting existing users of a similar product, and one is just basically saying, I'm going to put this out there and hope we succeed. I mean, that's really what it is. When you put ads out into the general public, you could target the ads a little bit, but it's basically like guesswork that we're actually going to succeed. And no one wants to invest in your company on a whim that you may or may not get, because you're sure you get it. I've had so many people, so many entrepreneurs come to me and say, with this incredible confidence that's not based on anything in reality. What the heck? Oh, that's loud. They have this incredible confidence of how well they're going to do, but it's never based on reality when they do that. I mean, someone who has a track record is different, but I'm talking about first-time entrepreneurs. I know this is going to work. I'm sure of it. We're better than everybody. No. If this is your first time as an entrepreneur, you're not. You're just straight up not. I don't care who you are, how amazing your God-given talents are. You're not going to be better than all the people who tried it before you on your first try. You may succeed, and God bless you, I hope you do, but if you walk in there saying, we're going to succeed because I know I am, because I'm confident, because I'm so good at whatever it is, that's not a good reason. Another bad reason, which is common amongst tech companies, is a solution seeking a problem. This is so unfortunate, because a lot of really brilliant technology people do this. They are a solution seeking a problem. They come up with some incredible technology that does something that no one ever did before for whatever reason, although usually there is someone who's done it before. But they come up with this incredible technology, but the problem is nobody wants it. I mean, really, there's just no one who wants this thing. And it's sad, because it might be very good. That's pretty neat. That's a crane on a boat. All right, on a barge. Okay, so let's say you have a product. You better hope that somebody wants it. Don't be a solution seeking a problem. Most people start businesses identifying a problem and figuring out how they can be the solution. Now that's not always possible. Sometimes you wake up with an epiphany, and in that epiphany you decide, holy cow, there's a good business to be had here. Make sure when you decide there's a good business to be had here, that it's not just that it's a good idea, but there's good business, meaning money. You have to have your profit model. You don't necessarily have to think of it initially, but we're in an era where in order to get an investor, you have to have a profit model. Back in the day, all right, like Y2K, people could care less about profit model. They cared more about user adoption. You get user adoption, you automatically have profit. Of course, that doesn't work anymore. Sorry, guys. It's sad because it was a great time back then, but it's no longer. So today you need to have your profit model concrete. You got to know exactly where the money is going to flow. If you don't define that in your investor pitch, they will not invest in you. If they ask you how you making money, you better have an answer. And now, if your answer is, I'm going to get market adoption, then you have to have a concrete plan how you're going to get market adoption. It has to be backed up. Everything needs to be backed up. Next thing, a common reason, but this is actually a little less common than the other ones I've said before, for not getting an investor is being too not being risk averse enough, being too risky. Don't have contingency plans where you could have them. So let's say you can plan out what happens if scenarios where what happens if so-and-so goes wrong, what are you going to do? You need to have as many of those contingency plans as reasonable for your business. Sometimes their answer is, what am I going to do? I'm going to close doors and walk away. That's reality, okay? If you're a retail store and the building burns down and you were in a rental, you didn't own the property, you walk away. That's probably what you're going to do. So you don't literally need a contingency plan for every possible thinkable scenario, but you do need to have the ones that are likely. So let's say you are a business of a social network. You're creating the next Facebook, or at least you want to be. What happens if you have a data breach, which is a very common problem today? Unfortunately, nobody likes it. What are you going to do? How are you going to come out of that? See, most people don't even think about these things when they start their business. You got to think of all the possible things that could go wrong and be ready to be prepared to answer how you're going to address it if they actually do go wrong. Now, that's easier said than done, but on the same time, sometimes you do those things and you realize there's a giant hole in your business, something you never thought you have. In fact, that's another thing that you didn't know you didn't know. You thought you knew, but you didn't know. And when you come up with those things, it's usually an epiphany moment, and it's typically fixable. Most of those are things that could happen. If you think it through properly, you can figure out how to fix it. So all those things, different reasons to be risk averse. Make sure that when that investor asks you what happens if, that you have the answer to that question. Because if you don't have the answer to that question, you may lose it right before he gives it to you. Right over there is the Statue of Liberty, and right over there is Ellis Island. For those unfamiliar with the history of New York, Ellis Island was nicknamed the Island of Tears. Google it. It's terrible. It's a very sad reason, but you can Google it. It's beyond the scope of this video. Anyway, another common reason that an investor may not invest in your business is because you have maybe an unproven business model. That's the side effect of being really innovative. No one's ever done it before, then how do you know you're going to succeed? Or maybe everyone who has done it before has failed. What is going to set you apart? Now, another variation of that is sometimes the investor just doesn't have sector experience in what you're doing. So you may not be having a bad idea, you might have everything in all the cards stacked in the correct places, but the investor is the wrong investor. Straight up, he doesn't know how to give you good advice, he doesn't know how to assess your company to determine if indeed there's some business to be had here that's good. He has no idea. He is going to be risk averse and not invest in your business because he doesn't know if you have a good business or not. Someone else with more sector experience would. Now, one of the other major reasons that people do not get investment is because they ask for too much or too little funding. Now, too much funding, you can kind of guess. If you are a brand new startup and all you have to do is some form of development, programming, let's say it's an internet-based business, because that's my background, so I keep using these examples. Internet-based business, you want to build the next social network, and you're asking for $2 million and you haven't got a user yet. You're a brand new startup. Why do you need $2 million? You don't. You can build this, okay, a few guys who are programmers can build this in a garage in half a year. It's not like you need $2 million to support that. So that's the obvious one. Now, why is too little funding a major reason that they reject investment opportunities? Why would they reject it? Because you ask for too little. It seems like it's counterintuitive. Like, wow, you can do so much with so little, but no, they don't believe you could do so much with so little. Straight up. And they know what happens when you run out of money. If you run out of runway to operate your business, meaning your money has run out before you had a chance to actually achieve profitability, you're really not going to do well. There's a good chance you're going to go under when you just started. And right after they gave you the money, you're going to lose the whole business because you run out of cash flow. So let's take an example that has a much more concrete use of funds than not a tech company, which is pretty, people can do that on a shoestring, let's be real. Not everyone can, but people can. Let's say you're a med tech. I'm going to go back to that example. You're coming out with a new injection that helps people who are sick, doesn't matter what it is. Okay, that injection needs FDA approval. That takes at least several $100,000, if not millions. I really don't know what the process is there, but it's certainly not going to be cheap, right? If you ask for just enough money to cover that and no other money, then you better have in your investor pitch a statement says, well, I have XYZ funds already, that's why I only need this much. Because if that's all you're asking, and they know you need 3 times that amount, they're not going to take you seriously because they're going to assume you don't have good financial acumen. They cannot believe that if you're going to use 1/3 of the amount of money that they believe is necessary, and you don't have a way to get that other 2/3, they're not going to believe that you're able to make this business succeed financially. You might be a brilliant scientist who comes up with the most amazing medicine, but if you can't get FDA approval, no one's going to use it and you won't make any money. And that's what they're focused on. So it's very important that you ask for the right amount of money. Not too much is obvious, not too little. That's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? Like, you could ask for $1 million and you'd be better off than asking for 100 grand sometimes. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that, honestly, but that's the way it works, and that's how it is. On that note, I am in just this most beautiful part of Manhattan, Lower Manhattan here, Battery Park. I'm gonna call it a day. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate the time you spend on my videos, because I know you don't get that time back. I hope you get funding after this. That's the core goal. You got to get some funding from this. This better lead to some money coming in for you. I hope so. I pray for you, okay? All right. If you don't believe in God, that's all right. I give you my blessing regardless. But hope you get some money from this. Please share, like, subscribe, share this to everybody you know. I mean, even if nothing else, just so they can see this glorious part of Battery Park City, New York City. It's just so cool down here. I love this place. It's one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in all of New York. The most expensive rental building. I don't know if you can see it in the skyline. No, you can't. It's just over that way. Most expensive rental building in the United States is right there. It's called the New Yorker. It was designed by architect Frank Gehry. It's incredible. I think it's called the New York, not New Yorker. Anyway, go to their website, look up the rents if you want to be shocked. I think the penthouse is like 30 grand a month. Seriously, that's some serious dough. All right, anyway, every time I walk by there, there's like Maybachs and Rolls Royces parked out front in like surplus. All right, guys, see you in the next video. Hope you like, subscribe, and I hope you make a lot of money, get a big investment. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Yeah!